Tell us about shining a new light on this story and why it's still so fascinating 40 years later.
It's a very bizarre story. I mean, yeah, I think the same thing that was compelling to me when I first read the Texas Monthly articles is what remained interesting throughout shooting it, and then now that the show's coming out. Yeah, a lot of really interesting characters, and just the chain of events that led to this horrific murder. So hard to believe actually happened, and I think the other interesting aspect is, yes, it's obvious Candy was the one that murdered Betty, but the more you think about it, even as we were filming, it's the things that led to this awful moment. I don't know. It's hard to outright say one person was the cause for this. There's not a clear antagonist, villain to this story.
Yeah, still heavily debated even today, right?
Yes.
We have here, right here, the central love triangle. All these characters are so layered, as you said. Some very questionable decisions are made even long before the murder. So Elizabeth, Candy is a woman who seems to have it all together but wants more out of life. She says that over and over again. I think that's still a relatable quality. But tell us how you approached portraying such a seemingly likable woman who had such a dark, shocking side that even she didn't know was there.
I think it starts with, luckily we had this resource, this book that a lot of the people who we are depicting in the show participated in. It's called Evidence of Love, and Candy never participated in any interview after the trial. This was kind of the only way I could get to her childhood, her upbringing, her relationship with her husband. If it were fictional, we would have to invent things that needed to be invented. So it was really about the time and the place. These people almost this community almost try to go against what was happening in the mainstream kind of liberation of what the nuclear family means. They actually created a community that was trying to keep it and keep this tradition. And I do think Candy was a bit of a product of more of like a progressive way of thinking. And because of that, and maybe because of the restrictions of the place, I think she was just always trying to get something more. I mean, and I think getting something more means that there's something internally. You can't just keep reaching and then be fulfilled. The next paycheck or the child or the house or whatever, that's not going to actually fulfill you. There's something else. And so I think it's just it just shows the kind of woman that maybe she was in this, always wanting. And what you were saying with people liking her so much, that was just how people felt about her. And so I think she's someone who cares a lot about what other people think of her, and how tightly do you hold on to that? How tightly do you grip it until something snaps? And so that kind of energized me into trying to make sense of certain questionable decisions that are made along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Lily, with Betty, I'm a new mom, so maybe that's why I really, really related to what she's going through. She's having a difficult time long before the tragedy even takes place, and these characters are so layered. But she and Candy are almost two sides of the same coin.
Yes. And interestingly, in Kansas, where they have transplanted from, Betty was sort of the golden girl at her high school. She was voted most likely to succeed. She was people talked about her smile and her I think that without diagnosing her, there is something that happens. There's this shift, and she is so alone. And it's not that she is alone in her marriage; it's that she's alone in. She is lacking in her ability to sort of reach outside of her circumstances and outside of her pain and get whatever kind of help and support it is that would have made, I think, a tremendous difference in the course of her life. And she does get there. Like, I believe that, and something Jesse and I talked about a lot is had things ended up differently, I do believe there's a real chance they would have made it, because I think once she gets to Marriage Encounter and actually has an outlet,
you see the light come back on.
yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I believe that it would have it was there, and yeah.
Yeah, a lot of sad, compelling layers here. And as an American Horror Story alum, you are no stranger to the gruesome, and fans love to see it. But this is obviously a very different genre. So I need to know how the two of you handled that scene in the laundry room and what it was like shooting that.
It was sort of like sustaining this kind of note in like a piece of music for an incredibly long time, and stretching a rubber band as tight as you possibly could without snapping it before it actually snaps.
It's a great way to put it.
Because we
Lily, love doing interviews with you.
Oh gosh, really?
Take it away, Lily.
Likewise. I like imagery; it helps me.
Perfect.
But
Yeah,
it is
that's
what it
felt like.
What it felt like,
Yeah.
and I feel like Lizzie and I were sort of reaching out for one another. And sometimes quite literally, when between takes, we would just sit quietly in our chairs and have a hand on a knee, or just be making some kind of physical contact, just to say, I'm here, I'm still breathing, because it was exhausting in every way.
Yeah, it was a horrible feeling to go through the first take in the wide, which I did do at the double because Lily was 6 months pregnant, and the adrenaline that came after was just like, oh, I don't like this at all. I don't want to keep doing this. I can't believe that was the first take. This is terrible. And we also choreographed the fight sequence to the lacerations that were discussed in trial, which is just a horrible starting place it was just awful.
Betty also believed I was pregnant, and Betty believed that she was pregnant at the time
Yes.
of her death. I didn't say that in this. This was in the one.
It was the one before.
And that was quite profound, and I didn't anticipate just how profound that would be in her determination to live through,
To protect her family. Yeah.
This is not making light of anything. Obviously, it's a very tragic event that happened. But speaking about her being pregnant,
No. I know what you're going to say.
there's this scene, the scene before I leave. It's like where she's so concerned that she might be pregnant, and I'm like, wow, if you are, then we'll figure it out. But just Lily.
And my belly was resting on his thigh.
It's just
The
like,
jig is up, but
I feel like I'm pregnant.
so the camera's shooting like up here.
Yeah.
Well, there was like a belly double, so then I would have to mimic whatever position we were in with the belly double. She was a trooper. It was very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well, before we let you guys go, it sounds like this was such an intense experience on set. How did you unwind at home? I mean, this is a story about the complexity of families and marriages. Did you share this show with your loved ones? What does Kirsten think?
She hasn't seen it. She'll see it tomorrow. Yeah. And I guess she had to deal with my hair. God bless her for that. But yeah, she's excited to see it, and it was nice being in Austin. We had the kids there, and yeah.
Oh, that's great.